Hell yeah, motherfucker.
Y'all know the AV Club? I don't know. It's like news. They had an article titled, How John Wick Makes the Most of Keanu Reeves' Emptiness. So apparently, Keanu works best when he has no soul, because he kind of walks around like he doesn't.
Yeah.
Here's a common sentiment. A quote from Entertainment Weekly's Owen Gleiberman, who refers to the always disquieting sight of Reeves impersonating an intelligent grown-up. And I've always thought that.
Yeah.
He's pretending to be a grown-up.
Yeah,
he's still the guy. He's still a wild stallion.
He'll always be Ted to me.
Yeah. Which is why that role was perfect.
Yeah.
They need to get to work on that third one. You're listening to Movies with Ron, the podcast where my older brother surprises me with a movie he saw because I don't go see them anymore. And he explains the whole thing to me from beginning to end. If you're listening right now, trust me, you'll like his versions better. It's okay if you've seen the movie. It's okay if you haven't seen it. The experience is unique, so just trust me. All right, nail guns. Apparently the perfect zombie killing weapon.
No.
If it existed, that was the problem, right?
No.
What happened on Twitter?
It's entire... Okay. We got a Twitter response from Sal Roma that says, I have to side with Chris. A nail gun belt sounds like a pretty awesome weapon against zombies. And I admit that from the Resident Evil episode...
We didn't know what each other was talking about.
Maybe.
In the episode, I at first thought you were saying that it was a great weapon, but you weren't saying it was a bad weapon.
I was talking about the absurdity
that it
of
exists.
having a nail gun in your hand with an ammo belt, an enclosed ammo belt, leading from the gun to the backpack. Now, here's the other thing, okay? I used to work in construction, and I have a little experience with nail guns, okay? You can have a small belt of nails, like 20 nails, okay?
Uh-huh.
Now, number one, that small belt of 20 nails is fragile, okay? It's designed to be stuck into the gun and then clicked shut, all right? But if you've got it, like, waving around, even and closed, like it is in the movie, okay, something's going to happen. Those nails are going to catch on the inside of the enclosure, first of all. Okay, the other thing is, here's the thing. What powers a nail gun? It's air pressure, okay? You need at least 90 PSI to operate your average nail gun.
That might have been what was
so
mostly
the backpack probably had an air tank in it, okay? Which had to have been charged before he went into battle, okay? So it would probably be a somewhat small air tank, and every time he uses that nail gun, the air pressure in that tank is going down, okay? It's not like you can have a small air tank and then have like 5 million pounds of pressure in it. Okay, you can't do that. Your tank will blow up. There is a finite amount of pressure you're going to be able to go into battle with. And that's still like, okay, all right? You have to put that backpack on knowing you've got like, 50 shots before it's no good. Even though in the rest of the backpack, you probably have, we're talking about nails, guys, okay? You probably have like 5 million nails in it, okay? That somehow your little grease monkey girl was able to stick all of those little 20 section belts together, okay?
Yeah.
Which, number one, they're so fragile, yet that wouldn't be possible, okay? So all of that considered, a nail gun is not a good weapon to go into battle with, okay? Now, if you're stuck in a room with a couple of zombies and you see a nail gun down there that has somehow already had the safety feature disabled, okay, which prevents being able to fire nails out like a gun, all right?
Yeah.
There's usually a little switch on the front. You actually have to push down on it for anything to even happen. But you can disable those. I've done it myself. If that has actually been done, and you pick up that nail gun, yeah, you know what? Well, first of all, you better hope it's connected to a tank of air, okay? Because if it's not, you're better off throwing it. But if it is, you can take a couple of zombies out with it. All right? And if you keep shooting zombies, then all of a sudden your whatever air compressor you have it attached to is going to turn on and go and you're going to have to wait for it to charge back up.
And they're just going to hear you and go for you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it's a shitty weapon.
I think it's a shitty, especially used the way that they were. He was like, I'm going into battle against an army of 1,000,000 zombies. You know, I just know that he's got like, at the most, guys, like, even if the backpack entirely was just a tank of air, and the nails are just like, oh, you know, nails in the belt only, okay? He's got like maybe 100 shots.
I'm convinced. I'm a convert. Fuck that gun. Everybody stop talking about nail guns.
I know, right? Now, here's the thing. When I said I was going to prepare a rebuttal, I said this to Sal. I was like, I'm going to prepare a rebuttal and bring it up on episode 37. He responded with, well, the best rebuttal possible is, geez, you guys, you weren't there. It's stupid. Freaking idiots. And, you know, I just couldn't agree more. Now, speaking of Twitter, we just got a tweet from Dennis Janssen. Sorry, Dennis, I haven't had a chance to respond to you yet, but, well, here you go. We're going to read it on the show. And Dennis says, just re-listened to the Jason Bourne episode of Movies with Ron. I love the way Ron lets us relive the movie, but Rick provided great support.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Okay.
Horror movie villains are always in the right.
Go ahead and explain. And
All right. Think about Jason. It's a lot of slasher movies, but Jason got bullied, drowned in the lake. The campers, the new counselors, are just as bad.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to kill them, you know, or they're going to hurt someone else like him.
Yeah.
They even killed his mom because she was the killer in the first movie. So fuck those counselors, right?
Hell yeah. You know, Kevin Bacon was one of those counselors.
Yeah. Candyman? Candyman was a wealthy black man who married a white woman and then got tortured, got honey smeared on him, and then covered in bees, and he died.
Yeah.
Now if you say his name 3 times, he comes back and he's got a hook for a hand. You have to believe in the fear. That's what keeps him alive.
Yeah.
But, you know, everything is justified because he was, like, fucking tortured.
Oh, yeah, man.
He's like, if you caught Candyman, you'd be, these days, he'd go to a hospital. You know?
Yeah.
He wouldn't go to prison.
So what about Chucky?
Yeah, I was hoping you guys would.
Yeah, justify Chucky for me.
He wants a fresh start. Everyone deserves a fresh start.
No.
How do you know the kid's not going to grow up to be a murderer?
Well, he probably is.
Now, yeah. Hey, this is a favorite of yours, Ron. And I know I have to have you recreate this last scene. Angela from Sleepaway Camp.
Oh, Jesus.
Remember you found a birthday cake that had that shit on it?
Yeah.
It turns out that the killer... It's a shitty movie, right?
Well, yeah, but it's a classic.
Okay. So we'd be giving it away?
Yeah.
All right.
Everybody should see Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah, good twist.
Yeah, excellent twist. Yeah. Just standing there.
But if you see it, you realize the social political climate now, she is in the right.
Yep.
Jigsaw, got cancer. Helping people.
You know what? I got
helping
cancer.
People philosophically with all the gore.
I guess.
Giving them methods to save themselves.
Why not?
Death from Final Destination. Nobody's more in the right than death.
Yep.
You don't fuck with that. Those kids have to die.
I hear you.
I guess it's because they know people like being on the killer's side
Yeah.
and watching the kids die. I don't know.
So, speaking of kids die, Freddy Krueger.
Okay,
You want to tell me how he is in the right?
All
Remember,
right.
he was a pedophile.
that's the only pass I'll give because I love that movie. I fucking love Nightmare on Elm Street because that's the twist. And that was the genius of Wes Craven is the girl, the final girl.
Uh-huh.
You think this is the twist, which is common, but she confronts her mother and she's like, "You burned him because you thought he was harming children, but he was innocent, and that's why he's taking it out on us."
Yeah.
And that was the justification. That was the kind of like you're on Freddy's side.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
no, then at the end, the real twist is Freddy is like, "Yeah, I heard all those kids all along. I
Yeah.
am fucking evil, and I'm gonna kill you." And that's what made it so scary. And I had nightmares, and I love that movie.
Yeah, all right.
Hey, I'm reading that book, Doctor Sleep,
Oh, yeah.
by Stephen King. It's a sequel to The Shining.
Absolutely.
A lot of this book is so fucking cool, but as it happens with Stephen King and me, a lot of it is so fucking dumb.
Yeah, there's a lot of country cooking in his writing.
Yeah, and it's a lot of over-explaining,
Yeah.
and he sacrifices tension for character crap.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, like, I want to turn it into a movie, and I think they are already, but
Oh, yeah.
I want to do it, and I want to do the same thing Stanley Kubrick did with The Shining.
It just,
Make it a cool fucking horror movie,
Yeah.
you know? And then Stephen King would hate me, and I'd be like, Kubrick was right all along. He knew what he was doing.
oh, yeah, no doubt.
Let's recommend a movie for everybody.
Let's.
From 1994, In the Mouth of Madness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one.
Remember that shit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fucking weird.
Yeah. I
Crazy
love
ass
that
movie.
movie, man.
I don't know how the crazy writer is in the right. We'll figure it out.
He's like trying to like,
Jürgen Prochnov.
yeah.
He's a writer. Sutter Kane.
Yeah.
Do you know Sutter Kane?
Yeah. Did I ever tell you my favorite color is blue? This is my favorite scene in the whole movie.
He's kind of like Stephen King. He's a horror writer.
Yeah, it's obviously based on him.
Yeah. A lot of this is inspired by that and H.P. Lovecraft, if you like that kind of thing.
Which I love, that kind of thing.
Jürgen Prochnov, good actor. He's Sutter Kane, the writer, and he goes missing, and he owes his publisher a book.
Right.
And the head of the publishing company is Charlton Heston.
Yes.
Yeah, John Carpenter, the director, got him to be in this fucking movie. That's so
Yeah,
cool. I
I
love
know.
it. And he sends the insurance guy. They hire an insurance guy.
Dr. Alan Grant.
Yes, Sam Neill.
Yep.
In a new kind of thing. I never thought I'd see him do a movie like this.
Yeah. He's incredible in this movie.
Someone just liked our Facebook page.
Sweet.
We got a Facebook, Twitter, @MoviesWithRon. But In the Mouth of Madness. So on his journey to find this writer, Sutter Kane, his name's John Trent. He goes through scene after scene of horrific stuff in the guy's books.
Yeah.
Until he finally, they end up going to this haunted whole town.
Uh-huh. Very Silent Hillish.
Oh, yeah.
This movie is the only other movie I know of that has Vigo from Ghostbusters 2 in it.
Oh, yeah. And he's like, did the opposite of who Vigo was. He was a sympathetic character.
Yeah.
This is a mindfuck of a movie, but it's carefully done because it's John Carpenter. And I know a lot of you probably know about him, but more for Halloween and The Thing. But I don't see In the Mouth of Madness on a lot of lists anywhere.
Well, technically, it's part of a trilogy. It's part of John Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy,
Yeah.
which begins with The Thing, and then is The Prince of Darkness,
Yeah.
and ends with In the Mouth of Madness.
There you go.
That mental hospital scene, like Sam Neill ends up, caught by the guys in white, and he gets put into a padded room, and he's in there for like months or weeks.
Yeah.
He's like going insane.
Yeah.
Okay, and like Sam Neill in a rubber room, insane.
Uh-huh.
And he has like totally covered every inch of his walls in like drawings and like crucifixes and like weird stuff that he wrote.
That was a year after Jurassic Park. So why is the writer so hard to find?
Because he's off like doing...
He's a victim of the monsters in his books, right?
No, he's trying to like bring hell to earth.
I'm trying to justify him. But there's a scene which is like the most weirdest, so much animatronics and gore, is when they open like the gates.
Yeah.
And then it's like a whole wall of monsters coming at them.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, going down that tunnel.
Yeah, it turns out that all of his writing has been like, he's like bringing these entities into the world.
Yeah.
So it was like all part of his plan.
Yeah.
And I guess, if you were to trace it back, he was just like, he worshipped some cosmic monster or something, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Or these forces that he's trying to conjure.
In the Mouth of Madness, 1994. What'd you go see?
The Lego Batman movie.
All right.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Is it the best Batman movie ever?
Maybe.
Was it funny?
It was funny.
All right. I like the Lego movie.
Yeah. I like the Lego movie a little bit better than this one, but this is damn close.
Is it just as fast?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the thing. When I decided to do this, because my other option was the Great Wall, and I have to admit that in the end I looked at the Rotten Tomato scores, and the Great Wall had like 36, and Lego Batman had like 91. Okay, so I was like, all right. But I was really worried because with the Lego movies, like, everything is coming at you 1,000,000 miles a second.
True.
So I was like really worried about being able to like recap this accurately, which I probably won't be able to do. Because in these movies, it's the little things that make them great.
Yeah.
All right, here's the Lego Batman movie on Movies with Ron. All right, so it starts off with a black screen, and we have Batman, who is voiced by Will Arnett.
Yeah.
And he just says, black. All important movies start with black. And then they usually start in with some sort of like big dramatic music and logos.
Oh, shit.
And then the Warner Brothers logo comes in. He's like, Warner Bros. Warner Bros. Something like that. And then the DC logo comes on. He's like, oh, yeah, DC. The house that Batman built. And he talks about Superman. I don't even remember what he said, but he was like, Superman sucks. I don't know. There's another one. He's like, Rat Pack. Not sure what they do, but I'm sure it's awesome. He's like, now, get ready for some reading. And then a bunch of words come across, and he reads it, and it's, if you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself, and then make a change. He's like, Michael Jackson. No, wait a minute. Batman said that. And like, it said Michael Jackson, then it like erases. It says Batman. And then he's like, okay, the movie's going to start now. And then like, there's like, obviously everything is made of Lego. And there's this big plane, like a big cargo plane flying. And there's these two guys that are piloting it. And they're like, yeah, we're best friends. We're coming in here, and they're like radioing to the tower. And they're like, we have a full payload of, hand grenades and dynamite and like all this artillery and bombs and stuff.
People, don't forget, these are Lego figurines doing all this.
Yeah. So then this smaller black plane lands on top of it and lets loose like a group of black-clad terrorists.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're robbing the plane. And they all start cutting into the hull. And one of the two pilots is like, hey, did you hear that? Something's happening. And one of us should check it out. All right, well, you want to rock, paper, scissors for it? And they do. And then the loser is walking back, and he says to himself, I'm a loser at home, I'm a loser at work. And then he gets like thrown out of the plane by the bad guys who have finally made it in. And the bad guys are led by the Joker.
Okay.
And he shows up in the cockpit, and he's talking to the remaining pilot. And he gets on the radio, and he's like, yeah, you guys should all be really scared. The Joker, by the way, is voiced by Zach Galifianakis.
Really?
So he does not sound like the Joker. Okay. He just sounds like a guy.
Really?
Yeah. And he's like, hey, you guys should be really scared. And they're like, why? And he's like, because I'm going to take over your city. And they're like, no. You know, the pilot's like, no, you're not. He's like, what do you mean? Well, Batman will stop you. And he's like, no. No, he won't. And the pilot's like, yeah, he will. You remember that time with the 2 boats? Talking about the Dark Knight?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, that doesn't count. He's like, well, oh, you mean, well, how about that time you had the parade through the city with the balloons? He's like, no. It's definitely going to work this time. All right, so they like crash the plane or something, and there's a bunch of chaos happening, and they're all running out of the plane with the bombs and all the weapons and everything, and it turns out that he's got like all of the Batman villains working for him. Like he's got like the Riddler and Scarecrow. He's got Bane, who looks like the regular comic book version of Bane, but he's wearing the Dark Knight Rises fur coat. Okay. There's like Two-Face, Clayface, and he ends up like having all these other villains work for him, like Calendar Man and Condiment King. And then Commissioner Gordon is like, oh my God, that's it, activate the bat signal. And he just like has a remote control in his pocket that just has a big button on it. And it's got the bat logo, and he pushes it, and then the bat signal turns on, but it's covered in eggs because it was egged by Egghead. So it doesn't work, and they're all freaking out, and the Joker is getting the upper hand. And he decides to take the city hostage with this big, complicated bomb. And it turns out that underneath the city, it's all held up by, like, pillars, and he's just going to put a bomb on those.
Okay.
And the big threat is that if he blows up those pillars, the city will break apart, crack in two, and then fall down into the sea. So the Joker's like, get me the mayor to negotiate the city's surrender. So Jim Gordon is talking to the mayor, and he's like, yeah, you can't do this, mayor. Don't give him what he wants. And the mayor is like putting on climbing gear and attaching a cable to herself. She's just some blonde lady. And she's like, no, I got to go do this. Batman's not around. We're going to have to deal with him. So then a helicopter comes and lowers her on a cable into the middle of the Joker's like big chaos central. Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody's in different bad guy vehicles driving around in a big circle, and the mayor just gets dropped off in the center. So the mayor is talking to the Joker, and she's like, do you like to gamble? And he's like, yeah, who doesn't? She's like, yeah, you like to play roulette? And he's like, yeah, sure, I guess. Why are you talking about this? And then she goes, because whenever I play roulette. And then she turns around, and it's the mayor, like with the blonde hair and the dress, but it's Batman's face, and he goes, I always bet on black. So then everything goes crazy, and he starts kicking everybody's ass.
Yeah.
And he's like, let's get nuts. And he's like, computer, play my Let's Get Nuts mix. And then all this rock music starts playing, and he calls the Batmobile in, and then he just starts owning everybody. It's like transforming into the Batwing and this other weird thing called the Scrambler or something.
Uh-huh.
During the fight, he's like singing a song that he wrote about himself. Like, who kicks all the ass? Batman does. And he's singing it, and they're like, who pays their taxes? And he's like, not Batman. So then he saves the city. And he's talking with the Joker, and the Joker's like, yeah, I'm your greatest enemy. And he's like, what? What did you say? Yeah, I'm your greatest enemy. No, you're not. And he's like, no, yeah, I am. Come on. Who else, like, has all these diabolical plans and then drives you to always one-up them? And he goes, Bane. And the Joker is not getting what he wants. He wants to be his arch nemesis, and Batman's like, yeah, no. I'm sorry, I don't do ships. He's like, what do you mean ships? He's like, relationships. There is no us, Joker. You mean nothing to me. And then he looks up in the distance, and he's like, no one does. As he is saying all this, the Joker just like his bottom lip starts quivering. Like it's really cutting him to the quick. And then he just starts crying. So anyway, he ends up escaping and flying away on some balloon. Batman goes and defuses the bomb, and this whole city is celebrating. And everybody's like, I love you, Batman, I love you. And there's this guy that walks up to him and goes, I love you more than I love my kids, Batman. And he's like, hey, me too, guy. He's like, hey, computer, are the kids at the orphanage still awake? She's like, yeah. He's like, let's go. So he goes out to the orphanage, the city orphanage, and like all these kids are like, Batman, we love you, we love you. And he's like, yeah, cool. Who wants to play with the merch gun? And then he just like starts firing T-shirts at them and like coffee mugs and hats. It's weird. Anyway, in the orphanage is Dick Grayson, the guy who becomes Robin. Uh-huh. But he's like a kid, and he's got these big, super thick glasses, and he looks like a big dork. He's like, oh my God, I love Batman. I love him. I wish he was my dad. Batman's also always talking about his abs. He's like, remember, kids, if you want to be successful, take care of your abs. And at one point it was showing his abs, and it turns out that he has like an extra one. So then he's flying through the city, he's going home, and everything just looks spectacular. All these big action sequences are beautiful.
Yeah.
So he flies back to the Batcave, and it's like he has to give a password to go in, and the computer's like, password, please. And he's like, Iron Man sucks. And it lets him in. He's like, computer, I'm home. The computer's like, oh, what's up, Batman? You got some mail today. And he's like, great, what'd I get? And it just starts talking about, like, coupons. He's like, all right. He's like, where's Alfred? He's grouting some tile in the third bathroom for the fifth master bedroom suite. And he's like, yeah, okay. But he's left your lobster thermidor in the fridge. Shall I tell him you're home? No, don't worry about it. And then it shows him pulling a plate of lobster out of the fridge and putting it in the microwave, and he's like standing in front of it. And he had already taken off the bat suit, and he's wearing like a silk robe, but he's still wearing the bat helmet.
Okay.
With his like glowing blue eyes. And he's like punching numbers into the microwave, and he punches in 20 minutes, and he's like, not 20. And he has to like reset it. And it shows all this, and he puts it on 2 minutes. And then he like stands there waiting for it for a while. And then it shows him alone in the middle of the bat cave, like sitting in a little bat boat, like eating his lobster. And he eats it in like 3 bites. So he gets done with that, and he like pulls out a guitar, and he shreds a little while. And then it shows him like in his home theater, which is as big as an entire movie theater. And he's like sitting there watching Jerry Maguire, the real Jerry Maguire. And Tom Cruise just goes, you complete me. And then he just like laughs his ass off. So he's like looking around, and he's just like wandering the Wayne Manor. And it might be a pretty lonely existence,
Yeah.
And then he starts like looking at the family photos of his parents on the wall, and he's just like staring at them. Like, he's lonely. And he's like, Mom and Dad, I saved the city again today. You'd be proud. And then Alfred's like, there you are. And he just turns around and kicks Alfred. And Alfred like flies away. Alfred is voiced by Ralph Fiennes. And he's talking to him like, yeah, you're having a pretty lonely life these days, Batman. I can sense something is wrong. And he's like, nah, I'm fine, I'm good. And he's like, yeah, but, I've sensed this other times. Like way back in, and then he just starts listing off years, okay? And they are all the release dates from all the previous Batman movies.
Yeah.
And then they show Lego versions of the covers of those movies. Like there's like a Lego Batman with his glowing blue eyes from Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
And then like the Lego Dark Knight, stuff. And he's like, no, I don't have feelings. I don't feel feelings. The only feeling I feel is rage. 1,000,000% of the time. Good night, Alfred. And he's like, well, it's morning, sir. And he opens up all the windows and the daylight comes on. And he's like, no! Like it hurts him. And Alfred's like, maybe it's time you faced your greatest fear. And he's like, what? Snakes? Like, what? No. Clowns. No, not clowns. Snake clowns. It's like, no, that's not even a thing. Your greatest fear is having a family. And he's like, you really need to get ready for Jim Gordon's retirement party. He's retiring as the commissioner, and you need to be there. And he's like, fine. And while he's getting ready, he's watching the news, and they're interviewing Superman, who he hates. And Superman has just banished Zod to the Phantom Zone. Then it cuts to the Joker, and he's watching the same news. And they're talking about the Phantom Zone and how it's like the most hardcore prison for the worst villains ever, And he's looking around at all of like the Riddler and Bane and everybody, and he's like, man, you guys suck. That's what I need. I need all those guys from the Phantom Zone. He's like, I got an idea. And then it shows Bruce Wayne at the party. And he's walking around schmoozing. And then that kid, Dick Grayson, he's there because all the orphans were there, like, singing for all the rich people. Uh-huh. And he walks up to him, and he's like, hey, I'm a big fan of yours. You got any advice on, how I could get adopted? And Bruce Wayne's just, and then all of a sudden they introduce the new commissioner, which is Barbara Gordon, Jim's daughter. And as soon as Bruce Wayne sees her, everything stops, and it just goes, I just died in your arms tonight. And he's just like smitten. Okay. And the song keeps playing, and he just like keeps walking, and he's staring at her, and everything the kid says to him, he's just like, yeah, sounds good. Sounds great. And then Dick is like, do you think you would ever, want to adopt a child? And he's like, yeah, totally. He's like, well, would you like a son who's like, limber and is really good at gymnastics and is really smart? He's like, yeah. That all sounds great. And he's like, well, that all sounds like me. Do you think you'd want to adopt me? Definitely. And he's like, oh my God. And then Bruce Wayne just walks away from him. He's still staring at her. And so they're doing the ceremony for Jim Gordon retiring. And they're like, you're so amazing, You've always been the guy to get the city out of trouble. And he's like, oh, yeah, flip. That's what I do. I flip that switch. And like all he has ever done is just turn on the bat signal and let Batman save the city. And they're talking about Barbara Gordon, and she's like got this new initiative to get rid of crime in the city. And she's like, my initiative is called It Takes a Village, Not a Batman. And Bruce Wayne is like, what? And she's like, yeah, I mean, he is great. He does save the city, but has anyone ever noticed how he has never captured any of the villains? Ever. And she's like, we need to, incorporate actual laws into what Batman is doing. What I hope is that the police can team up with Batman to get all these guys off the streets. And Bruce Wayne is like, yeah, he raises his hand. What's your problem with Batman? And then the Joker shows up and takes over the party. And it turns out that Barbara Gordon is like a hero cop. So she's like, we don't need Batman. So she's like trying to take charge. She's like, everybody get down. At the same time, Bruce Wayne is yelling that. And he's like running away, trying to like find a place to change into his Batman suit. So he jumps out a window and he gets into the Scrambler, I guess, which is his all-purpose vehicle. It'll transform into anything that he wants.
Okay.
So he breaks back in with it, and it turns out that Barbara Gordon has got this. She's like already taking control of the situation. And Jim Gordon is just like pushing the button over and over. And both of them are like, I've got the Joker in my sights. And then the Joker is like, I surrender. And everybody's like, what? And he's like, yeah, no, totally. I want to go to Arkham Asylum, and I want to pay for my crimes. And he's like, what, why? And he's like, you don't have to worry about that, Batman. I am off the market. You're not going to be able to fight me anymore. And he's like, as a matter of fact, we're all surrendering. And all the other villains that are there with him are like, wait, what? Even Bane, who is like, what? So all the credit for the arrest goes to Barbara Gordon. And Batman's like, what the hell? And the Joker just looks at Batman and he's like, bye, Batman, like goodbye forever. See what your life is like now. And then they're all, so Batman, what are you going to do now that all these criminals are off the streets? I guess you can spend some time with your family. And he's like, yeah. And then it starts playing that song, One is the loneliest number. So there is no more crime. And everybody's locked up in Arkham Asylum, and he's got, like, nothing to do. So he's, like, spying on all of them in Arkham Asylum, and they're all, like, doing yoga in the courtyard.
Yeah.
Barbara sees him, and she's like, hey, man, what are you doing? Like, you should work with us. You should be part of the police. And he's like, nah, I work alone. And then there's this laundry truck that pulls up to the asylum, and it's called Phantom's Own Laundry Service.
Mm-hmm.
The Phantom Zone. So Harley Quinn is in the laundry truck, and she's going to, like, bust them out, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Batman goes home, and he's asking the computer, how can I put the Joker in the Phantom Zone? So that's how we're going to get rid of him forever. He's obviously up to something, surrendering like this. And the computer is like, password, please. And he types it in, and it doesn't work. And then Alfred is behind him, and he's like, I've locked you out of the computer. And he's got some, like, Batman parental lock that he put on it. And he's like, yeah, well, you don't know. I've got a super secret password. And Alfred's like, do you mean Alfred the Butler with 2 T's? And Batman's just like, and he's like, it's time for you to spend some time with your son. He's like, what the hell are you talking about? And it shows the kid, like, walking around the mansion, looking at his new home. It's like, the lad you adopted. And he's talking to Batman about how he needs to be a family man now. And Batman's like, what do you know about having a surrogate son? You work for me. So then Alfred's like, oh, yeah, okay. And then he opens the entrance to the Batcave, and Dick Grayson finds it. He's like, you can't let him in the Batcave. I'm not letting him in the Batcave. I'm letting him into your life through the Batcave. So he comes in, and he's like, oh, my God, wow, it's the Batcave. And he sees Batman, and he's like, are you telling me you live in Bruce Wayne's basement? It's like, no, he lives in my attic. So he's like trying to touch all the weapons in the vehicles, and can I touch this? Can I touch that? He's like, no. And then finally there's like a can of shark repellent, and he's like, can I touch this? And he's like, yeah, I guess you can touch this. It's pretty useless, so sure. So it turns out that the device that they use to send people to the Phantom Zone, called the Phantom Zone Projector, is located in the Fortress of Solitude, like deep down underneath it in some like laser grid.
Yeah.
And the computer's like, your chances of failure to get this are 110%. And he's like, all right. And then he's talking to the kid, and he's like, so you say you're really limber and good with gymnastics and stuff, And the kid's like, yeah. He's like, and you are 110% expendable, right? And the kid's like, I don't know what that means, but sure. So he's like, all right, why don't you go on a mission with me? And he's like, oh, well, I can't. My new dad, Bruce Wayne, I should probably wait until he comes home. And he's like, it turns out we both adopted you. We're both going to be your dads. Really? He's like, yeah. He's like, man, it is raining dads. She's like, can I have a costume? And he's like, yeah, sure. And he starts going through all the different bat suits. And you see all the familiar ones from the movies, but there's also like weird, wacky ones. And one of them is called Reggae-Mon. And he's like, can I wear this one? He's like, yeah, you can have that one. And it's the Robin suit, but it had like dreads on the helmet and everything.
Yeah.
And the kid like puts it on, and he's like, oh, yeah, it's okay. He doesn't wear the helmet, though. He's like, but the pants, they're so constricting. Oh, hang on a second. And then he just rips them off. So now he just looks like Robin with his bare boy legs. Yeah. He's like, perfect.
Who does his voice?
Michael Cera.
Okay.
Alfred sees what he's doing, and he's like, what are you doing? Why are you putting him in a suit? And Batman's just like, how dare you tell me how to parent my child? So they get in the scrambler, and he's like, are you ready to follow Batman and maybe learn some life lessons along the way? He's like, yeah. So they're flying, and he's like, oh, well, where's my seatbelt? He's like, the first Batman life lesson is life doesn't always give you seatbelts. And then he has to like do a hard brake to avoid like hitting some old lady. And Robin like hits the windshield like really hard, and he's hurt. And Batman like feels bad. He's like, all right, as soon as we get back, I'm going to have Alfred put some seatbelts in. But for now, okay, I'm just going to put my arm across you like this, like the way your mom would do. Yeah. And he's like, and we're just going to go real slow. And he's like driving through the regular traffic rules. So they get to the Fortress of Solitude, and he's like, all right, your superpower is listening and doing everything I say. And it works. Robin's like, oh, yeah, cool. He's like, you're going to sneak in and steal the Phantom Zone projector while I distract Superman. Because like all superheroes, he's spending all of his time here brooding in solitude and silence, because he just can't identify with anyone. So he like rings the doorbell. There's this giant door, and it opens up, and there is obviously like a huge party going on inside. Mm-hmm. Batman comes in, and he's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And there's like Aquaman and Wonder Woman and everybody, and the Green Lantern, who's voiced by Jonah Hill again. And he's like, wait a minute, you guys aren't having the... And he looks at the big banner across the top, and it says, the 57th Annual Justice League Anniversary Party without me, are you? And they're all like, yeah, no. And he's like, you didn't invite me?
Shit.
And they're all like, you know what, sometimes, yeah, we invited you, but, so I don't always get Superman's emails, It's fine, though. You want to do a shot of Fireball?
Let's do it.
Here you go.
All right.
Fireball.
Rick, you want some?
Yeah, I'll have one.
The someday official drink of the show. Fireball.
Smooth.
So they all just keep partying, even though Batman's just standing there. And the Flash is like, hey, Batman, what's going on, man? Hey, you want to take a quick pic? And he's like, yeah, sure. And he holds up his iPhone. And the Flash is just like, all right, thanks, man. And he gives Batman the iPhone so that he can take the picture of the group and not be in it. He's like, yeah, okay. And he does it. And then everybody's like, yeah, great. You got everybody. That's great. He's like, yeah, all right. So then Dick Grayson is like, hey, I found the Phantom Zone projector, but it's in this big laser shield thing. So then Batman's got to like talk him through going through it all. And he does. Mm-hmm. And the kid like does everything the Batman says, and it seems quite unreasonable. But he's pretty good, so he actually makes it into it. And Dick is talking to him over the radio. He's like, hey, I was just thinking, like my superhero name, it could be Robin. And Batman's like, what? That is so stupid. He's like, yeah, I could be Robin, and my catchphrase, it could be tweet, tweet on the street. And Batman's like, no. So they end up getting the projector and escaping with it. And they're outside, and Batman's like, I feel something. Like, you did such a good job in there. I don't know. I think I feel something. And his computer just goes, that feeling is pride. And he's like, yeah, I feel very proud of myself for telling you what to do. So they're on the way back, and Robin is like, man, it's probably past my bedtime. I should really get home to, my other dad's house. He's also been trying to call Batman Dad. Batman's like, no, you can't call me that. He was like, how about Padre? And he was like, Padre, what's that? Well, that's Spanish for dad. Yeah, but isn't that also like a cool way of referring to your buddy? He's like, well, yeah, I guess. He's like, all right, you can call me Padre. And Robin calls Batman Padre for like the rest of the movie. He's like, Padre, isn't it past my bedtime? He's like, life lesson number 2. Vigilantes don't have bedtimes. He's like, oh, wow, this is amazing. And he goes, what's the vigilante stance on cookies? And then Batman in the cockpit just holds up 2 cookies and he goes, "Unlimited." So now they're going to sneak into Arkham Asylum so that he can send the Joker to the Phantom Zone. And he runs into Barbara Gordon again, and we hear again, "I just died in your arms tonight." And she's like, "Hey, why don't we work together?" And he's like, "Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, let's totally do it. Let's work together. That's what the BAT stands for. Best at teamwork. Best at teamwork, man. That's my name." So in order to go in, he's got to put all of his weapons down, and he has to put down like 100 weapons. And then they're walking in through the X-ray machine, and they see the projector under Robin's cape.
Yeah.
So then they just have to fight their way in past all the guards to get to the Joker. So they get to the Joker, and he's telling him he's about to send him to the Phantom Zone. And the Joker's like, "Yeah, because I'm your greatest enemy." He's like, "Stop trying to entrap me in a relationship." He's like, "Admit it. All right, you know what? Go ahead. Send me to the Phantom Zone and prove that I am your greatest enemy." And Batman just sends him. Fires this projector at him. So then Barbara Gordon gets pissed off at Batman for that and then traps Batman and Robin in cells in the Arkham Asylum. She's like, "You can't be a hero if you only care about yourself." And he's like, "Come on. I just sent the Joker to the Phantom Zone. I'm amazing." And she's like, "Yeah, what if you gave him exactly what he wanted, though?" So then it cuts to the Phantom Zone. And the Joker's like, "Falling through cloudy weirdness." Okay, and then he lands, and he meets this weird block robot whose name is Phyllis. And she's like, "Welcome to the Phantom Zone. We need to scan you for evilness now. Because only evil people can be here." So she scans the Joker, and she's like, "Yeah, you're pretty evil, but with vulnerabilities. But, it's okay. You can stay." And he's like, "Yeah, well, where is everybody?" And she's like, "They're behind you." And he turns around, and stuck in the Phantom Zone, now with the Joker, are like gremlins. And there are actual Lego gremlins. There's Jaws. There's the T-Rex from Jurassic Park. King Kong. The Kraken. Dracula, the Wicked Witch, the bad guy from Harry Potter. What's his name? Voldemort. Like Medusa. Agent Smith from The Matrix is there, and he can like copy himself. So the Joker's like, he meets them all, and he's like, "I got a plan." Oh, also the Eye of Sauron is there, which is the tower with the eye on top of it.
Okay.
And it's like as tall as King Kong. And he's like, "Yeah, I have a plan. If I can get us all out of here, will you guys work for me and take over the city with me?" And they're all like, "Yeah, totally." And then there's this velociraptor that's like, "Excuse me, guys, I don't mean to be a downer, but how are we going to get out?" So then it cuts back to the Arkham Asylum, and Harley Quinn steals the Phantom Zone projector, and she like sets it to release all inmates. So then they all come out, and they all show up in Gotham City, and the Joker's like, "All right, I'm taking over. And so he like introduces everybody, and he's like, "Give it up for the Eye of Sauron." And now all the big important new bad guys, they all get their own intros. And at one point he's like, "Also some British robots." And then he's like, he looks at some kid and he's like, "Ask your friends." And I was like, what are they called? So all the new villains are running amok. And the Joker looks at the Eye of Sauron and he's like, "Hey, you can see like everything, right? Like, you can see into the souls of people too." And he's like, Yeah. The Eye of Sauron is voiced by Jermaine Clement from Flight of the Conchords.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, where is Batman? Where's the Batcave?" And Sauron's like, "Oh, it's underneath Wayne Manor." And he's like, "Whoa, are you telling me that Bruce Wayne is Batman's roommate?" And Sauron's like, yeah, that's what I'm telling you." "Well, let's go." So they go and they take over the Batcave. So then it cuts to in Arkham Asylum, and Robin is in a cell next to Batman. He's like, "Batman, do you ever get scared?" And he's like, "No, but you know who does? Bruce Wayne. He gets scared. And then Barbara ends up finally asking, Batman, let's team up for real and take care of this, You're never going to be able to defeat him alone. Batman's like, okay, yeah, let's do this. So now the four of them, Barbara, Batman, Robin, and Alfred, they're all going to go up against the Joker. And they all get suits, okay? Alfred wears the old 60s Batman suit. And then Barbara gets her own Batgirl suit. And it's pink. And he's like, this one's called Batgirl. And she's like, well, if I'm called Batgirl, can I call you Batboy? He's like, no. So they're leaving and they're passing all the old villains. They're all still locked up. And she's like, do you think maybe they would help us? And he's like, no, that's a stupid idea. And they walk by Bane and he's like, I would like to help you. So now they have to fight their way to Wayne Manor. And the first thing they got to fight is the Eye of Sauron, who is like vomiting lava all over Gotham City. It's pretty fun looking. Batman has to master build his scrambler again, and they're all shoved into the cockpit, which still only has one seat. They're like, why didn't you build one with more seats? And he's like, because I only have one butt. The Joker is in the Batcave, and he has found Batman's collection of relationship comedies. And he's laughing, and he's like, oh, we also found all your toys. And then all the new villains are all like flying different bat vehicles out of Wayne Manor. They're all going up against him. Voldemort makes like a storm. They launch all of the gremlins at the Batwing that Batman is in, and they all start like taking it apart, like real gremlins during World War II. While they're in this dogfight, Robin looks at Batman and he's like, hey, are we almost there? Are we almost at Wayne Manor? Yeah, why? Well, because your number 2 needs to go number 1. He's like, I told you to go back at Arkham. He's like, I would have, but Bane was in there. And he had a real get out of here sort of vibe. So then the gremlins have now like done something to mess up the Batwing, and it's on fire. So Batman's like, I've got to go out and take care of this. Everybody stay here, okay? I'm going to put it on autopilot. And he pulls out a rope and he ties it across the steering wheel. And he's like, they're like, well, autopilot? He's like, yeah, the rope. The rope is my autopilot. Now, while I'm gone, the rope is in charge. So he's up on top of the Batwing, and then Robin and Alfred come out to help. And he's like, no, get back in there. I can take care of this myself. And he ends up having to save them both because like Robin gets blown off of it, and Batman jumps off of the Batwing and is like flying towards Robin, grabs him, and then grapple hooks back up to the Batwing. On his way up there, Alfred falls off, and Batman is like, Alfred, no! And Alfred just like falls down into oblivion. And you're like, oh, this got serious. It was like a moment in the movie.
Yeah.
And then Barbara Gordon's just like, screw this! And she pulls the rope off of the steering wheel and then flies down and saves him. Batman at some point was screaming out, protect the rope! So Barbara saves Alfred, and Batman's like, the bat rope saved Alfred. Good job, bat rope. She's like, yeah, actually it was me. And he's like, you lied to me, rope. You lied. You mean without you, Barbara, without you, Alfred would have been street meat?
Street meat.
And I heard that and I was like, what? So now Batman knows that he can trust Barbara. So she's like, we need to trust each other. And he's like, yeah, okay. Now, you're flying it. So the first thing I want you to do, I want you to just fly right towards the Eye of Sauron. And she's like, what? Why would we want to do that? And he's like, trust me. And she's like, you know what? Okay. He's like, wait for my signal. So they're flying, and then the Kraken starts attacking them. And he's like spitting fireballs out of his mouth. I didn't know he could do that. And she's like, can the signal time be soon? And he's like, wait. And they got the Kraken following him. And then he shoots a fireball and they just move out of the way, and the fireball hits the eye of Sauron. And Jermaine Clement is like, my eye! And he just falls over dead. So then they crash land, and they're like, we did it, we worked together as a team, we're a family. Yeah, we're a family, let's take a photo. And Robin, like, takes a selfie with all of them in the background. And Batman's all, like, solemn. And he has, like, a flashback of the pictures of his parents. And then Robin's, like, trying to give him a hug. And he's like, no, I don't want to do that. You know what? You guys we all worked really good together. We're all like a big, happy fraternity of people. I don't know what else you would call that. Now, everybody, salvage whatever pieces you can from the scrambler and, I don't know, try to find some vitamin waters or something. We got a long way to go. So they all get in the scrambler and they're like looking for pieces to salvage. And then he just locks the cockpit and locks them all inside. And he's like, Scrambler, take them back to Gotham City. Take them to the corner of such and such and such and such and get them some chimichangas or something. You know, I got to do this alone. And they're like, no, what the hell are you doing? So Batman works alone, and it's all sad because as the scuttler or scrambler or whatever is flying away, they're like, don't do this. So then he sneaks into the Joker's lair, which is all now looks like a big carnival. He looks at the Joker and he's like, man, you better hope Bruce Wayne's a cool guy. Like, doesn't mind what you've done here. Joker leads him to like a mirror funhouse stuff, and he's taunting him. And he's like, I even watched you push your family away. Your friends, you just pushed them away. So he's talking to him again about how he's his greatest enemy. And he's like, you know what? You know what you've never said to me, Batman? You've never once said those 3 little words. You've never said, I hate you. And all of the other villains around him are like, aww. Like, he's never said it? And he looks at Batman, he's like, I hate you, Batman. Now you say it. And Batman just goes, me too. And everybody's like, what? No. And there's like other villains like Gremlins and Voldemort. They're like, Batman will never change. He'll never change. And then Joker's like, you know what? You're right. He will never change. I need to give up on him. And he just looks at Batman. He's like, your greatest enemy is you. And then he sends Batman to the Phantom Zone. And he's like, all right, guys. You know what? Let's blow up the city. There's all these bombs here. Everybody get a bomb. Bomb. Let's go do the city. Let's go blow it up. Then it cuts to the Phantom Zone, and Phyllis meets Batman, and she has to scan him for badness. And she just sees all of the shitty stuff that he has done and said to people. Like, he sees him talking to the Joker when he says, like, you mean nothing to me. No one does. And she's like, okay, well, you're not a traditional bad guy, but you're not good either. So, you can stay. I mean, shoot, you even abandoned your friends. And he's like, I was protecting them. And she goes, who were you really protecting, Batman? So through Phyllis, he's able to see what his friends are doing. And Barbara, she got like shot down or something. And he sees Dick Grayson going back into the Batcave, like looking through the suits. And you hear Dick saying, okay, what would Batman do? What would he do? He'd put on a suit. Okay, he'd use a gravelly voice, and he would go in alone. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And he puts on the Nightwing suit. And Batman's like, oh man, they are all going to die. He's like, Phyllis, you got to let me out. You got to let me go back. And she's like, yeah, I mean, I could, maybe, but, what's going to change, Batman? Are you going to be any different? You're just going to do what you've always done. And he's like, no, come on, you got to let me go. I got to save him. And she's like, okay, but, I'm going to need all those bad guys back in here. If you do that, I'll let you go. And he's like, yeah, okay. And then she looks at him. Oh, she's just a box. But she goes, oh, Batman, I mean all the bad guys. And he's like, I understand. He's going to have to come back too.
Okay.
So he comes flying out and he's like, look who's bat. And he saves the three of them. And Barb is like, we were fine without you. Okay, we could have done this. And he's like, you know what? I just want to say, I'm really I'm sorry. And she's like, sorry? And he's like, yeah, I said it. I did it. She's like, I don't even understand why you came back. He's like, because I was afraid of feeling that pain you feel when you lose someone close to you. And they're all like, whoa. All right. Okay, you're making improvements here. And he's like, we got to do this. Flip. And she's like, what are you talking about? And then he flips the switch for the Batman signal. And they all turn around, and he has changed it, and it's pink. And it's got Barbara's face on it. And then it shows that he has changed it for all of them. So there's like 4 different Batman signals in the sky. There's one for each one of them.
Fucking Alfred.
Yeah. And then they're like, it's going to take more than just the 4 of us. And he's like, oh yeah, I did this too. And then he just like flip, 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 flip. He's pushing the button a whole bunch of times. And then every old villain that is locked in Arkham, they all have their own bat signal too. So then they all show up. And like Bane is like, we will be the Joker's reckoning. So then they all get vehicles. And then they start fighting all the Joker's new bad guys. Mm-hmm. So they're all having this huge battle. And it's all really fast and action-y. And then Batman and Robin are fighting gremlins together, okay? And Batman's like, I'm going to teach you another lesson. Okay, check it out. When we start fighting, we're going to start to see words appear in the air. And they start doing it, and then you start seeing bam, pow, stuff like that. And Voldemort, he's like fighting Barbara, and he's like, Wingardium Leviosa, Wingardium Leviosa. He's like shooting crap at her, and she's like, Wingardium Leviosa, shut up. And then she shoots him with the projector, sends him back to the Phantom Zone. And all the good guys and all the old villains, they all start tossing the projector back and forth between each other, and they're sending all these new bad guys back to the Phantom Zone. Uh-huh. At one point, Jaws comes up and attacks Batman, and Robin jumps in the way and squirts the useless shark repellent at him. And Batman's like, hey. So they get everybody shot back to the Phantom Zone, and then Batman's like, all right, now I'm going to go defuse that bomb, and then it explodes. And the city starts destroying, okay? It's like cracks down the middle, and it's like falling apart. And they're like, it's separating, we need some rope. And then like one of the bad guys is like, run, everybody just run. Batman's like, no, we got to stick together. That's it, we got to stick together. And so they form this like human rope. Yeah. And they lean it over across the chasm to try to grab the other side of Gotham City. And Batman's like, we're going to use our shredded abs, to like stay horizontal. And then he just misses the other side, and he's like, ah. And then on the other side is the Joker. And Batman's like, Joker, help me. And he's like, no way, man. You know what? I told you what I wanted from you, and you never could do it. I'm not going to save you. We're all just going to die. And he's like, no, help me save Gotham. Help me save us, you and me. Because if we don't have Gotham, we can never fight again. And the Joker's like, did you say us? So he's finally getting what he wants. And he's like, all right, that's it. And so he forms a human bridge with whatever people that are with him. And then Batman and the Joker join the human rope together. And Batman's looking at him like, how are your abs, bro? And he's like, not good, not good. And then they start calling out to all the other people in Gotham City. And they're like, you need to do that. Use your abs, use your abs. So there's all these other human ropes that are joining together. And then in this big, slow motion, dramatic moment, all of a sudden it just like goes back to normal speed. And the city just like clicks back together. Just like Legos snapping. And the whole city is celebrating, and Joker's like, yeah, you finally did it. You know, I'm your greatest enemy. And Batman's like, I hate you, Joker. He's like, oh, I hate you more. Then Batman goes, I hate you forever. So everybody's like, yay. Now Batman has to go back to the Phantom Zone. So he's like walking off by himself. And Robin comes up and he's like, what are you doing? You can't leave? You can't leave me? And he's like, nah, no. I have to, buddy. I'm sorry. He's like, yeah, but you can't just leave me with Bruce Wayne, you know, Padre. And he's like, actually, I'd prefer it if you called me. And then he pulls his mask off, and he's Bruce Wayne, and he goes, Dads. And Robin's like, oh, man, both of my dads are the same guy? That's amazing. And now I'm about to lose you. And Batman's like, yeah, you know, all of you guys, you're my friends. You're my family. And Robin finally gets a big hug from Batman, who then immediately just shoots the projector at himself. And he starts flying away through space to go into the Phantom Zone. And then as he's about to go through the portal, like he hits a block and it won't let him come in. Mm-hmm. And then Phyllis shows up and everybody can see her. And she's just like, you know what? I have finally seen a man who, wanting to make the world a better place, finally took a look at himself and made a change. So then they let him stay. And all of the old villains are just like still free, and they just run away.
Yeah.
And Barbara's like, really? We're just going to let him go free? And he's like, don't worry. There's nothing the four of us can't handle. And then we get this sequence of them all going home to the Batcave, and they all have to shout out, Iron Man sucks. And it shows him making lobster for four. And then they're all sitting there watching Jerry Maguire. And when he says, you complete me, they all just start laughing at it. And now they're hanging the new family photo on the wall. And Robin's like, my first family photo. I love it. And then the screen starts fading into white. And you hear Batman go, white. All good movies end in white. So, that's it. You know, that's the story. You know, the next threat we're going to have to face, though, we'll face it together. And then it shows a bunch of snake clowns. And then the credits roll. But we get this big sequence of the four of them all frolicking together in the Wayne Manor. And all the old villains are there, and everybody is dressed in like white suits, and they're all singing some song about being best friends. And we see the credits, and it's like Zach Galifianakis did the Joker, and Ralph Fiennes was Alfred. And then it says, the Lego Batman movie. And then you hear Batman, and he's like, all right, okay, yeah, that's it, it's done. Man, I hope no one was recording this. Oh, man, the camera's on. And then he just puts a lens cap over the screen, and that's it.
All right. Good job, man.
Thanks, buddy. The Lego Batman movie on Movies with Ron.
At the end, when they're all in white, they should have been singing Everything is Awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't like it as much as the Lego movie, but it was still pretty fun.
Yeah, it's cute.
Next week, I think we're going to do the movie Get Out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any new reviews. I want some reviews. People.
All right, come on, guys.
If you're on iTunes, hit that ratings tab. Leave us a rating and review. Give me something to read on the show. You can say anything you want. All right, it's been fun.
All right, love you.
Take care.
Movies with Ron.
The pass is given.
Jaws? Can't kill a shark, man.
That shark's killing everybody else.
Dude, sharks are just like caught in an instinctual loop. Like, people were fucking with sharks before Jaws fucked with them. swimming in his waters. Why you gotta swim in those parts of the water? The shark, it got lost. A lot of times they get caught in the shallows. They get caught in certain, the tide shifting, and they're stuck there. And then they have no choice but to have that bloodlust.
Psst. Let's end this one with the Freddy Krueger.
Okay.
Way better ending.